Speaker, Mr. President, and delegates. Back in 1977, after interviewing for a job as an anesthesiologist right out of residency in private practice in San Bernardino, the chief of the anesthesiology department asked all the surgeons if they would allow a woman to give their anesthesia before I was hired. I know to those of you who are younger than I, that sounds ridiculous, but that was how it was back then. Some surgeons said no, but luckily enough said yes, and for 23 years I was in private practice at St. Bernardine's Medical Center in San Bernardino. It was very much expected that any new doctor joined the medical society, joined the CMA, and even a woman. They wanted me to join, and I came and went to all the meetings and joined. And I never really expected that I would be the first female president of the San Bernardino County Medical Society, the first female chief of staff of St. Bernardine's. And now the first female chair of CALPAC. So it's been an exciting career for me, needless to say. And I know I won't be the last female chair because Susan Kowalski was just elected as treasurer. The last 12 years of my career, I spent 23 years in private practice. The last 12 years of my career were as a permanente physician in Fontana, and that's been an extraordinary experience too. And I heard for many years all these stories about how permanente physicians were not permitted to join CMA, Medical Society, or AMA. Well, before you is Paul Finney, your next president, a permanente physician. And your chair of CALPAC, also a permanente physician. And I guess what that means is that a lot has changed and that we realize that we're all physicians, regardless of our mode of practice, and the organization represents all of us because we're all physicians. Yeah, yes. Dr. Cassidy said yesterday at our CALPAC meeting that the highlight of his career, or one of the major highlights of his career, was his CALPAC association and chairing CALPAC. And I have to say that I agree. I feel the same way. I've been in CALPAC, obviously, by the time you get to be chairman, by the time you get to be chairman, you know, you're pretty old because it's a 2-year term. It's a long term on the executive committee, and then 2 years as each of the officers until you make it to the chair. And I believe that this is the highlight. This is the only thing I aspire to be, and I will devote myself to strengthening our political voice by leading this body, CALPAC, that supports candidates and legislators who understand and embrace our philosophy and our vision of the future. Let me talk a little bit about CALPAC's highlights from 2012. I think you've heard already last year, well, no, you probably didn't hear that yet. We heard it at our delegation. Last year, we kicked off our campaign with $110,000 raised for CALPAC at the House of Delegates. That's just about double from the year prior. So everyone is now recognizing the value of CALPAC. This year we have a goal of $150,000. That's very ambitious. I know we can do it. Dr. Thorpe, your next president-elect, has volunteered to shave off his mustache should we reach that goal. So please donate generously. We make it very easy. We have a booth right outside, and we'll be making visits to all your delegations tomorrow, and we'll be glad to take your money. We already have $50,000 raised for this house. Can you imagine that? The house has just begun, and $50,000 have been donated. Dr. Hinsdale continues to be our diamond level donor, very generous. We now have 9 platinum donors, and I'll mention them because that's a higher number than we've ever had. Drs. Cassidy, Curran, Fenton, Snook, Wales, Spiritos, Kraus, Dr. Thorpe and myself, we are all platinum donors. And CALPAC continues to work with our local medical societies, with local fundraisers. I think we've had 3 of them this past year. One of them was at my home, and I was so impressed that every legislator, Republican and Democrat in our Inland Empire area, had to walk down in the dark of night, down my very steep driveway in Grand Terrace, California, just to be at my house so that they would not miss out on being at our CALPAC event. And it was very, very nice to see the local doctors interact with our legislators at my house. And I hope that we'll continue to have these types of fundraisers locally. I think that's a very, very good grassroots way of raising our funds and developing our relationships with our legislators. As far as the CALPAC primary election highlights, the primary election marked the first open primary in California in history where the top 2 vote getters moved on to the general election, regardless of what party they are with. So there will be 2 Democrats possibly running against each other, 2 Republicans or so. Of the 32 races that CALPAC engaged in, our total outright wins in races moving into the general election is 94%. And only 2 resulting in a loss. So we're obviously choosing quite well. We put a lot of time and effort into who we choose to support. In the 17 competitive races moving on to the general election, the CALPAC-supported candidate finished first in all but 2. So that's a very good record. I think probably one of the shining stars of our CALPAC-supported candidates is Dr. Richard Pan. Dr. Pan. Okay. He's running for re-election in a new assembly district. He's reaching out to the voters of the Assembly District 9 and will need our help, right? If he's to be successful in November and beyond, because I'm sure there's a beyond, as he told me yesterday. And we're extremely excited that Richard was chosen to be the chair of the Assembly Health Committee. What could be better to have a physician who really understands medicine and understands CMA? So we're very excited about that. Dr. Matthew Lynn, who's a past president of LACMA, and he's a CALPAC-supported candidate for Assembly District 49. He pulled off an extremely impressive win during the primary, receiving 51.3% of the vote. And we are now in a coalition in support of Dr. Lynn, who's running in a very competitive race. So he will also be a very strong supporter of medicine, should he win. So we spend a lot of time building relationships, supporting candidates sometimes quite early, knowing that they're going to be in the same office for quite a long time, and we need to build relationships. As far as our challenges for the future, MICRA is always going to be looming over us. The trial attorneys attempted an 11th hour assault on MICRA, and this failed. However, what this tells us is that it's going to happen again, and we're going to have to be ready. And we also have continuous assaults on the scope of practice, the bar and the corporate practice of medicine, and we continue to battle with the health plans and the IPAs. So what we need for success is each and every one of you to consider moving up your level of support to CALPAC. There's a booth right outside. We make it very, very easy for you to pay. And I personally contribute at the platinum level because I believe that this is how we do a lot of the work that CMA does. And my contribution should make a difference. Everybody's contribution makes a difference. We have $1 million PAC. And that sounds great, 1.2 million actually. And that sounds like a lot. However, the realtors have 7.5 million, and the teachers union has 9 million. And I think probably prison guards are up there too, and some other organizations. And so we need to up what we're doing. Everyone in this room has the opportunity to make a difference, and what we're asking you to do is to look at up your level to at least a 300 club. And we'll be around to all your delegations tomorrow, and I want you to consider that. I think this is something new that many of you, well, probably more the ladies than the men, but the little pins that we wear designating our contribution, now they have magnets on the back, so we don't have to ruin our clothing. I think that's a very good thing. I've never worn a pin before because I didn't want to ruin my clothing, but now I'm wearing my pin, so you can get a nice little pin, and you can get Dr. Thorpe's mustache removed, and you have an opportunity to make a difference in the political agenda in California. I thank you very much for letting me address the House.